Hey, and welcome to the Coffee Chat Queen podcast with your host, JMP. And today we are interviewing Mr. Bernard Glenton. He's going to share information about his company, what he does, and how you can find him. All right, Mr. Bernard, thank you for joining us today on the show. Go ahead and share a little bit about yourself with that.
All right, man, I'm happy to be here. So, my name is Bernard Glenton. They call me the Chancellor. I have a podcast called the Genesis Podcast. I also have a media podcast. It's all about entrepreneurship. So, business principles for beginners from the school Hard Knocks. And I've been doing this for about 3 years now, amongst other entrepreneur ventures and things of that nature. But I love podcasting, so I had to come on here once you told me that. Even if you didn't invite me, I was going to invite myself. So it was going to happen one way or another.
Well, I am very grateful for the support. You guys, this is a special guest for me because this is actually one of our clients and he is phenomenal. His podcast is great. I just got to throw that out there because he gives a lot of nuggets, information about starting a business, sustaining a business, growing and scaling your business. So make sure that you tune into his podcast, subscribe to it, and make sure that you guys be ready to take notes. So I just wanted to jot that gem right quick. Now, go ahead and share how you got into this industry.
All right, so the way I got into this industry was originally my background is in IT. I had a IT consulting business and I wanted to get more clients for my IT company. And so one day I was listening to a podcast and they said, oh, start a podcast. That's how you get more clients. So instead of me doing a typical technical podcast, I wanted to do a business podcast, invite people who would be my ideal clients and bring them onto the show and have them, just talk their talk about their business and all that stuff, and somehow slide in there what I could do or how I could do it and all that type of stuff. Well, I kept on forgetting to slide that in there because the conversation was so great. So that's when I realized I should probably pivot from doing IT, from being an IT consulting company to just being a media company, just doing this podcast thing as much and as often as I can.
So since you made that transition from doing IT in your podcast to strictly business, what result have you received from that?
On a personal end, man, I've gained so much knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Knowledge, network, and things of that nature. I tell my students that it's your network is your network. So now I'm able to grow my network and be valuable in that sense.
All right, so I want to backtrack for a second because you called yourself the chancellor. Now, what does that mean, and how does that go with the podcast show?
So I framed the podcast around as a university, right? If I had the most unorthodox way of getting to where I am today, right? Spent some time in the CFL, but I never played college. 4 years moved from high school and tried out for the CFL, and all that type of stuff, right? And that's not the true way of getting to the pros. The way I frame the podcast is much like how I tried out for the CFL. Very unorthodox. I wanted people who been there, done that, didn't go to school, again, went through the school of hard knocks to figure out all of this stuff. Right? So the chancellor, because I frame it around the school of the hard knocks, right? The chancellor is the person who runs the school, right? And that's where the chancellor came from.
Okay. So you pretty much go by your own rules. You go against protocol, but it has worked for you. So what would you say to those who may relate to you? They don't do everything according to the books or according to how society says things should be ran. Like, what type of encouragement or advice you would give them to keep going?
Wow. I'm going to try to keep this as clean as possible.
Please.
The advice that I would give is you watch who you get your advice from. Only get advice from people who have been there and done that. You know what I'm saying? When I wanted to start my first business, I asked all of my friends and family. And once I sat down and thought about who I was asking, 90% of them never started a business before. And 10% that did couldn't remember what they did. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't make sense for me to listen to those people who never started a business if I'm trying to start a business. So I saw people who have started a business and I gained all of that knowledge from them and me starting my own business. So get the game, listen to people who've been there and done that. That's what I would say to them. And keep going. Don't worry about it. Just keep doing it. Nobody cares about the perfection. They just put it out there. Just get out there. That's all that matters.
That's some great advice. I think a lot of times, especially starting out as an entrepreneur, you first go to your family for support. And if you're the first person in your family or in your friend group launching out in the industry that nobody knows about, the advice that they give, they're giving it from love, but they have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
have
it
no
sounds
idea.
good.
So
Yeah.
that was some great advice. Okay, so following up that right there, what kind of mistakes you made in your business that was a lesson for you, that you learned something great out of that?
And, there's so many. I'll try to run down a few. One of them is create your systems. Create your systems. Like you created your systems, you are able to duplicate yourself in multiple ways. So that was the biggest lesson. The second lesson I learned was it's not about how, it's about who. Who can you find to do what it is you're looking for? You know what I'm saying? The whole reason why we even connected was because I needed somebody who can help me, right? Instead of me trying to do everything for myself, you had the how. You knew how to do what I needed. So yeah, the who and the how.
One more question, then we're gonna get into the chat because this is actually really good. I'm enjoying this. So you was talking about finding your who, right? When is the right time for someone to find their who?
Oh, that is oftentimes we as entrepreneurs start to take everything on ourselves. I think one of the biggest things that you have to have is self-awareness, right? You have to be very self-aware to know, okay, I probably took this as far as I can take it and I need help, right? I think once you have that come to Jesus moment, start becoming more self-aware, what you need, what you don't need. I think that's when you start figuring out this is probably the time when I need to find my home.
Awesome. One more question for you, because y'all, in his podcast, he has a Genesis moment. And I love when he talks about that. Can you share a little bit, without going like too in depth, but about the Genesis moment?
Okay. So on my show, the Genesis Project podcast, I have what you call a Genesis moment. I ask all of my guests, what is their Genesis? A Genesis moment is when you come to a fork in your road of your life, and you can go right, you can go left. It doesn't have to be good, it doesn't have to be bad, but you can see what your life could be like beyond those first steps. Right? So, an example of a Genesis moment is me starting the show. That's a Genesis moment. Another Genesis moment is me getting married. Another Genesis moment is me trying out for a CFL, that is the Canadian Football League, 4 years in high school. So that is the Genesis.
Awesome. Okay. All right, everybody. So this is the part in the show where we do the Chat 10 challenge. If you don't know what that is a challenge where I guess they answer 10 questions in 10 minutes or less. Should they succeed, we would send them a gift. If they don't, we just learn more about them and their company. So it's a win-win here, okay? So are you ready, Bernard? Timer set. All right, so what do you do to maintain a work-life balance?
Boundaries. That's just it. Create boundaries and I live by my calendar.
Awesome. Okay. What is the biggest challenge you face as an entrepreneur?
Imposter syndrome
Ooh.
and dealing with it. Yeah.
Okay, so what are some of the most important lessons you've learned as an entrepreneur?
Always keep learning, always networking, always keep striving for what you want, your vision, and don't be afraid to pivot. You need to.
Wonderful. Okay. What are some of the essential skills you need as an entrepreneur?
That is a great. Vision. You have to know what your business look like. You have to know what you want, not just business, just life, right? You have to know what you want things to look like and just start going from there.
All right. You're knocking out these questions.
Because I want my gifts.
How do you define success for yourself?
Success is so subjective. Success for me is right now in this current space. Success for me is being able to cover my bills and be able to do whatever I want with the rest of the month. So if I want to wake up and go to Paris tomorrow, right? I can just go to the airport, buy me and the wife a ticket, and we go to Paris. How long do we stay in Paris? I don't know, till we feel like going home or going someplace else. You know what I mean? So to me, that's what success is. Having the flexibility to do what I want to do.
Amazing. Okay. So what is the best advice you have received from someone?
Mm. Always study. Read books. Sorry, reading books. That's what I mean by studying. Reading books, getting mentorship.
Okay. So what does life look like for your business within the next year?
In the next year, in the next year, life of my business will look like me having a couple of live recorded episodes. I will also have partners. I will have a platform where more and more businesses are able to market what it is that they do and having more people on the show.
All right. And I have two more questions. If you could trade places with anyone, who would it be?
Um, oh, this would have been a great question you asked me. I like the last question. What I want to be. I would probably say Einstein, just because he fascinates me. You know what I'm saying? He's smart, but he seems down to earth and
All right. And last question I have for you is, who is your right-hand person?
you. Besides my wife, you.
All right, guys, we have a winner. Bernard, you finished in 6 minutes and 9 seconds. So congratulations, you won the
Shout out a little longer.
But listen, you had some great answers, okay? I want to go back to the question where you answered imposter syndrome. Can you share like ways to overcome that?
Yeah. You know, coming from sports, you know, it was real easy to know whether you're doing something correct or you're doing something wrong just by listening to the crowd or the coaches on the sideline. You know what I mean? Once I got away from sports in a professional manner, it was real hard for me to figure out whether I'm doing something right or something right. Just for you guys who don't know what imposter syndrome is, one of my guests said it best. Imposter syndrome is that itty bitty shitty committee that talk a whole lot of trash and say stuff that just talk against what you know you're able to do, right? So like when I started the podcast, as I was editing my episode, one of the things that used to hit me all the time is, I want to listen to you. What do you got to say? You know what I'm saying? Why is anything that comes out your mouth going to be worthy of anybody listening? You know what I'm saying? And things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? But one of the things that I did, and let me also get super transparent. I've never dealt with addiction, but I would imagine that this is much like an addiction, right? Whereas if you was an alcoholic, yeah, you might not be drinking alcohol anymore, but you still battle with alcoholism every day, right? So even right now, I'm still battling the whole imposter syndrome thing. But one of the things that I do to battle the imposter syndrome, I talk to myself. You know what I mean? And however way you want to look at it, that's not me saying I'm crazy or anything like that, but my self-talk. You know what I'm saying? I manage my self-talk. I'm very vigilant on how I talk to myself. Right. And even when I hear those little voices in my head, I gotta do it anyway. I have to act, I have to move violently with action. Right. So the moment I get an idea, I think it's a good idea, I have to move violently towards making that happen. Because the longer I sit and wait, the more it's going to talk me out of it. You know what I'm saying? Something else that I do is my pastor, my bishop actually told me this once. He said you gotta guard your eye gates, your ear gates, and your mouth gate. Right? You gotta watch what you take in. So in order for me to do that, I have to flood my mind with specific music, specific type of music, right? Again, books and what I watch on television, what I study, things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? And just having a dope routine. And when I say routine, I'm talking about like from morning, noon to night. Having a routine, it helps. A lot of times with me being a former athlete, yes, I still work out. So I have to hit that heavy nowadays. Now that the imposter syndrome, whenever the imposter syndrome is trying to rear its ugly head around, I try to hit the weight room, just work out as much as I can.
Amazing, amazing. Wow. I hope that helped you all. I want to ask one more thing. I want to go back because you talked about studying. So I want to ask you, how often should someone fresh up on their skill set or learn a new skill set? And how does that work for you?
So I say you have to do it often, often. You know, I used to think, man, once I get out of high school, I don't got to go to school no more. That was a bold-faced lie. Because I every day I have to study something, right? I have to study the numbers that's going to make my business work. To study the numbers to my podcast, get more listeners and all that type of stuff. Right? I have to study money to figure out how can I properly work my money, right? Personally and business wise, right? I have to learn how to do marketing, right? Henry Ford was really good in the sense that they consider him not a smart guy, but he was pretty smart because he surrounded himself around smart people. So, you know, if I could put myself in that same position, oh, I'm doing that. You know what I'm saying? So as far as what I do personally to study, like I said, read books. And even if I don't have the time to sit down and actually read a physical book, audiobooks, podcasts. I'm trying to get game whenever I can. Even YouTube, you know what I'm saying? A lot of YouTube videos. That's how I do it.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Bernard. Before we wrap up today, go ahead and share where they can find you on your social media platforms. How can they contact you? How can they even be a guest on your podcast show?
Yes, yes. Once again, everybody, my name is Bernard Glenton. I am the Chancellor. You had a great opportunity to hear about me and about my podcast, the Genesis Project Podcast. The Genesis Project Podcast is being streamed on just about any and everything out there. Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can always check us out on our website, www.genesisprojectpodcast.com. And if you are looking to be a guest on the show, please feel free to drop us a line on our website. Again, that website is genesisprojectpodcast.com. I look forward to seeing you guys in the hallways.
All right, guys, thank you for rocking with me, JMP and Bernard, on the Coffee Chat Queen podcast show today. Until next time, guys, I see you later. Bye.